Happy New Year, everybody. It's New Year's Day 2020, new decade. The Hydrate 80 has gone off overnight, so that's all really hard, converted and nice new surface. I'm going to get my repair sill and start trimming that to size. I'm debating whether or not to try, and although the joggled edge didn't work when I did that rear wing, I might try and joggle it along here and then sit it inside. I wouldn't have done that ordinarily, but I've screwed this bit up so much when the grinder caught and twisted it all that actually having that inside and a nice flat edge to tap onto might be quite useful. So I'm going to go start trimming up my repair panel to go in there. I've been chopping up my repair sill section. I've marked my holes along the bottom edge for the punch because they'll be plug welded up onto this, and I've got my distances between spot welds by looking at what you can just see on some of the others, and it's about 1 3/4 inch gaps, but it can be as much as 2 or as little as 1.5, so I've just gone 1 3/4 about. And then I've marked where I'm going to joggle it, so that rear flange will be joggled to go up under that bit, and this top flange will be the same to go up inside there. And then that little bit at the bottom in that corner will need to be cut off so that that joggled edge can slide in and it won't foul on that bit. And then the front will just be seam welded along there. So I'm going to go take this up to the tool now, and the compressor, which I've now got working, and I'll stamp all that out and punch these holes. Incidentally, the holes will be initially punched at 5mm because that's what this tool does. Just has a 5mm punch in that side, but because this is a big thick plate and I'm welding upside down, I'm going to drill the holes out about 7mm, and that will give me more time to get really good heat penetration into that, because otherwise the risk is if you drill the hole too small, you like MIG weld into it, but rather than actually getting heat and a weld into that, you just fill up the hole, and your weld is kind of just floating in the middle of that outer skin, hasn't actually gone into that. So yeah, I'm going to punch the holes 5mm and then go through with a 7mm drill to open them up a bit. curious to see what happens when I try and joggle that, whether it will try and flatten that curve out, but only one way to find out really. It is, but I'll try and fold it back afterwards. Yeah, you can see how it's flattened it, so I'll have to pre-bend that to the shape of the car before I try and weld it in. I think I'm going to need another drill bit. Got my patch done with the joggled edges and the holes drilled, and that should slot in like so. So it goes on like that, and that top tucks underneath. What I need now is a way of forcing that lip down so I can actually weld it. So either poke it down from above, or again use Cleco pins to work out, or you know, hold that in place. The easiest way of doing that is put the panel back on top, clamp it in position, and then drill through both skins. So that's what I'm going to do next. Yet again, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing here. Got that panel in, and I've just put a couple of self tappers through rather than the Clecos, just to hold it in place and see what it all looks like. And it looks pretty good, like everything lines up, but I am not sure that I'm going to be able to get a nice weld in there and not again leave this all as one horribly wrinkled nasty shape. I'm actually thinking about reverting back to plan 1, which is to chop the wing off, or sorry, the sill skin off up to here, because I think I'll get a much neater job out of it, because I can weld onto that edge and it's very stiff because it's right next to a corner, so it's not going to warp. So I think I'm going to have to throw this bit away that I've spent ages on this morning, chop all that off, do it all again. Fun times. Okay, fast forward about 45 minutes of me getting pissed off, confused and angry. Basically, I decided to chop more of the sill off, thinking that I would make a neater repair. And it probably will be a neater repair for the fact, or unfortunately, this sill profile is not actually correct. It looked really good until I offered it up to the car and then realised I had a bit of a problem. Basically, the panel comes with this preformed joggled edge in it to sit up behind there, which it does, like so, and that can be made to look quite good. But when you try and offer that bottom bit up, it drops in. Basically, there isn't enough belly. See how this panel is pretty much straight flat there, curves quite sharp, then goes up to that edge. Well, this one is basically a lot flatter and smoother all the way around. So I've drawn that line on there and I've been progressively bending it to get that shape, but it's a slow, time consuming and aggravating process, and I'm not yet there. So I'm going to carry on doing that, and really for my form all I'm doing it is holding across a bit of steel and then pushing it with my hands. But on such a cold day it's not really working very well, so I've tried hitting it with a hammer. I don't want to hit it too hard because that'll put loads of big dents in it. Little dents are okay because this all gets seam sealed and then stone chipped, but yeah, it's just a pain in the ass. Basically been out to the car and realised that I can't get the I can get the profile right. That is pretty much there, perfect, but what it means is every single bit that I try and join onto it is going to have to be similarly bent perfectly, which is going to be really difficult to achieve. So I've come up with a different solution, and it's something I thought about right at the start but didn't really want to do it, and that is to make a full length sill out of all of the bits and pieces I've got. And this is a bad idea because it means I'm joining where it would have been nice to have just proper steel, But because I'm doing it off the car and I can get to both sides and then properly weld it, rust treat it, all the rest of it, I should be able to make a decent job. And I've got enough out of the little bit over there, that rear section, that mid section, to do it in one length. The only downside is that when I chop the side of the car out, I'm taking a lot more metal out now than I was planning, so I might need to weld a brace in. But I'm running out of time to do this, so I'm just going to get on and we'll see what the end result is. Right, I've really been pulling my hair out. I made a kind of jig thing with some real thick angle sat on some bricks, and then I've tacked together the two longest pieces of sill I've got. One of them was the one that I had pre-shaped to actually fit the car. The other one is an unbent, unmolested original. It all lines up nice and I've just tacked it. I'm pleased because there hasn't been any distortion or any funny business going on, so I'm going to weld that, and then I'm going to put the little section on the front end of that one and then I can shape the whole thing in one long go on the angle, I hope. So it'll be a long, boring, irritating process: welding, grinding, sanding, flexing, and then offering it up to the car, flexing it a bit more. You get the idea. Not fun. I've done the welds on the back side, and as I did it, I was offering it up to my straight edge and then belting it with a hammer to keep it basically straight, which it is, which is really good. So now I'm going to go through from what is going to be the outside and basically weld that so it's really nice, and then grind it all flat smooth, ready for shaping. Cool, that's both sides welded. I know that's all really good, properly penetrated welds, because I've gone through from one side and I could see it coming through on the other, and then I've gone back through. So you're going to get the sander and sand that flat, and then do the same again on that end, and then make it fit the car. Right, so that's sanded back, that's the outer face, and then that's the inner. You'll note I haven't actually sanded all the weld off on the inside because I want it for strength. The outside I haven't gone mental on either because it gets stone chip textured, and what I don't want to do is, well, make it weak. So I'm really happy with that. It's come out a lot straighter than I thought it was going to. So now I just need to do the other end, same process. I'm probably not going to bother recording it. So here we are lying, or here I am lying on the floor again in the cold. That's my new and improved sill, which now fits almost to the front edge. Annoyingly not quite, but you know, I'll just have to make that up afterwards out of a piece of strip, but still a lot better than it was. I'm going to trim off the top so it's the same length all the way along, put the holes in all the way along the bottom for plug welding, and at the back to go onto the tail edge of that sill. Then I'm going to primer it and primer the inside of here. The other thing I need to do is, of course, trim out the remaining metal of the old sill section, which I now don't need. This requires some care because although I'm not worried about the car changing shape, I am worried about losing the height of the step, because if you imagine that I cut this bit out, I don't know whether you can see you see that moving up and down by about 1 millimeter? By the time I've chopped all the way through to the rear, well, that's going to be flopping about all over the place. So I'm going to shut the door and take a whole load of reference measurements from the door to the top edge of the sill so I know where it goes, and basically watch what happens as I cut it, because that'll give me an idea if anything is out of shape or moving. I am, just for belts and braces, I'm not going to weld a bar in because I think that's overkill. but I am going to put a jack here just to take a bit of the load off, just in case something is going on. Okay, so I've got my jack and bit of wood in. It's I was going to use a hydraulic jack, but of course that can go down, whereas that manual one can't move. And then I've just gone with a steel rule and put my reference measurements in from arbitrary places along here, just what the gap is in millimeters all the way along. It's actually wider at the back end than the front end. That's 7, and up here it's 5 or 5.5, 5. Yeah. So I'm going to chop that bit off now and watch what happens to this bit, and hopefully nothing moves. We have good news. Nothing's moved. That's flexible, but it's not like it's gone boing. Door still opens and shuts, no issues. So that's all good. In here, remember this rear quarter had been replaced. You can see the backside of the world there properly. And it's never had any sort of anti-rust paint or anything. Still see bits of MIG wire sort of rotted to it, and the whole of the inside of the sill has rusted out along the bottom edge, despite what looked perfect from the other side. So I would snap that off in heroic fashion, but it's not really working for me. But anyway, good to get that off. I can clean all this up tonight. It's getting dark-ish, so I'm gonna probably crack on and do that, and then wait for the paint to dry overnight, and then I can weld it on, hopefully, the sill in the morning. But then again, I said that, you know, yesterday morning and the morning before, yada, all the rest of it. I had a bit of a problem with my video camera. Basically, all of that is now, well, the front end anyway is painted with the Bonder primer. The rear end, I haven't done all of it yet because I'm still waiting for the Hydrate 80 to go off. Up in here, I don't know whether this got recorded earlier or not, so I'm recording it again. That is the bit where there used to be a weld, and that bit I've just rubbed down and treated. That bit I've chopped out because I need to weld a patch in there. So I've just ground away all the nasty metal, so that can go off overnight, and then hopefully I can come back tomorrow and weld it all together. That's all primed, nice thick coat, ready for tomorrow.